Welcome to this week's real estate deal breakdown on the YouTube channel and the podcast. Today, I'm going to talk about a house that was a little tiny baby wholesale deal in Wilmington, Delaware. So if you are looking for the absolute truth in the real estate investing business, thank you for watching or listening, depending on how you're consuming this. If you're new to my channel or my podcast, I've been a full-time real estate investor now for 10 years. And the way that I try to separate myself from other people in this industry in terms of giving information out is I'm giving you stuff from the trenches, real deal breakdowns, real lessons that I've learned. So if you get value from this, do me a favor, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed so you can get all the new videos when they come out. And that's how we keep growing the program. So let's get into it today. This is a direct mail deal that we did in Wilmington, Delaware, which is a hit or miss place. You know, there's some high values in Wilmington. There's some low values in Wilmington. There's some middle of the pack stuff there. So you really got to know the area. If you are in Delaware and you know what I'm talking about, you're like, yeah, it's a block by block place. So this lead came in from a direct mail lead. And the way that we mailed this prospect was we mailed out offers to the prospects that we hit on this campaign. So instead of just getting a solicitation saying, hey, we want to buy your house, we actually put a preliminary number together. So gave them a preliminary offer. I remember I took this lead in myself because it came in on a Saturday and they left like a 2-minute voicemail basically describing the entire property, which usually means that they're motivated to sell. They were referring back to the offer that we made. And after some back and forth, I spoke with them for 20, 30 minutes and we had to follow up with this prospect to ultimately get it under contract. The offer we made was not taking into consideration the condition of the property and the house needed some updates. So the offer was a little bit lower ultimately because we did not know the condition because we never saw the house. So when I put the property out, and like I said, Wilmington is a very block by block city. You need to know the area well in order to make offers. So I had somebody come in right away, didn't have a lot of demand, and I didn't have a big margin to work off of because we gave them a pretty high price. And I knew that we weren't going to be able to make some crazy wholesale fee on it just because it's in Wilmington, you know, the values are the values. So had a repeat buyer come in, name is Jack, great guy. Jack, if you're watching, you're the man. Gave us an offer, a little bit lower than we wanted, but we know that Jack performs and he does what he says he's going to do. Ended up getting it into escrow. Took about 30 days to close. And at the end, before the closing, the seller needed to have an extra week to stay in there, or 2 weeks to stay in their property. So Jack was generous enough to agree to do a rent back. So the seller left some of their money in escrow. Jack ended up closing, and it ended up working out, and everything was pretty smooth. So what are some lessons you can learn on this transaction in Delaware that you can apply in your business, whether you're just getting started in real estate or you're a seasoned investor and you just want to, get some tips to sharpen your sword? First of all, you can't make big money on every single deal. As much as I'd love to make 100 grand on every real estate transaction, that's just not reality. Sometimes you got to take the small deals and you just look at that like, hey, you made 5 grand and $5,000 last time I checked is better than nothing. Lesson number 2 is pretty much the same as lesson number 1 is like, I like to use this baseball analogy a lot. Base hits win the ball game. And I'm not saying $5,000 on every deal is going to get you into the yacht club. But if you string together $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 deals, that's ultimately what? $20,000, right? So, and that's ultimately like one wholesale deal. So you got to take what you can get sometimes. Base hits win the game. It's better to make some money than make no money. That's the second lesson. The third lesson I'm just reading off of my list here is I've made this lesson before and I will probably make this as long as I make videos. The fortune is in the follow-up. Most real estate transactions, when you're in the off-market business, don't happen on the first phone call. Like I would say in our business, 95% of deals get closed after the first phone call, right? Whether that's 10 calls, 20 calls, 2 year, we've had 2-year follow-up. My record, I think, is a 7-year follow-up. We ended up doing a deal in New York in Rockland County. It's a 7-year follow-up. So you need to understand the marketing gets the leads in the door, but most of your deals are going to be made when you're following up with your contacts and your prospects and your leads. When you understand that concept, you get in the daily habit of having a follow-up sheet. And then when you follow up with people consistently, eventually they sell, right? Sometimes they're like, oh, I have a higher offer. And then that higher offer never works out and you end up getting the deal afterwards. Sometimes the timing isn't there. So you got to understand most of your opportunities and your contracts and your revenue is going to be coming in through follow-up phone calls. That's key. The last lesson here is that you always want to try new marketing stuff. We shook up our marketing on this campaign, and instead of just sending out what we normally send, we tried this new, like, let's send an offer to these sellers situation, and it ended up working out pretty good. We got a lot more calls than we thought. So if you're doing marketing, whether it's online or offline marketing, you always want to try to mix new things up and look and see what trends are in this business and try to, go with those trends. So, a lot of people are doing this, like, let's send an offer to somebody and have them call. I was against that for a while until I realized my response rates were really low when I wasn't doing that. So we ultimately did that and it got us more business. So don't be afraid to test new marketing things. I'm not saying bet the whole farm on it, but if your marketing isn't performing the way that you want it to perform, maybe if you try something new, it gets you better results. And in this case, that was true. So that is the North Washington Street wholesale deal breakdown. That was only a $5,000 deal in Wilmington, Delaware. And hey, it is what it is. Can't go broke making a profit. So if you got value from this, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe. And if you're in Delaware or the Seattle area or the Hudson Valley area in New York, and you have a house you want to either wholesale to me, if the numbers make sense, I will buy it directly. Or if you want to just JV wholesale something, we've done a lot of that. Send me an email at greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, or you can send me a message on Instagram at grego37, and I'll see you on the next REI deal breakdown.